Did you know Elvis Presley fought with his producer over a fade out that almost ruined his biggest hit? Or that he recorded a version of One Night with lyrics so scandalous, his record label refused to release it for years? What about the lost third verse of Heartbreak Hotel that makes the song even darker? We think we know these songs. We've heard them 1,000 times. But the versions that made it to the radio are often just one part of the story. Hidden in the tape vaults, on collector's releases, and in dusty session reels are alternate realities. These are the songs as they were first born. They are raw, imperfect, and sometimes even better. They show us the artist at work, laughing, swearing, struggling, and creating. This is the story of the Elvis we rarely get to hear through the lost verses and different takes that finally saw the light of day. Number 23 was One Night of Sin, To Risk for 1958. The original version of One Night was recorded by Smiley Lewis in 1956. Elvis recorded his first version on January 18th, 1957 at Radio Recorders in Hollywood. This take, with the original Of Sin lyrics, remained unreleased for over 25 years, first appearing on the 1983 box set Elvis A Legendary Performer Volume 4. Sometimes a song changes because the artist has a better idea. Sometimes it changes because the record company gets scared. One Night is a case of the latter. When Elvis went into the studio in early 1957, he cut a faithful version of the blues song originally written and recorded by Dave Bartholomew and Pearl King. The key line was, "One night of sin is what I'm now paying for." The song tells a story of regret. A moment of passion has led to a lifetime of consequence. It's a classic blues theme. Elvis sang it with a low, mournful growl. The performance was fantastic. It was raw and authentic, but the bosses at RCA Records got nervous. This was 1957. Elvis was already a controversial figure. His dancing was considered vulgar by mainstream America. His music was seen as a corrupting influence on the youth. The word sin in the title and the hook of a song was just too much for them. Steve Scholes, the RCA executive who had signed Elvis, put his foot down. He told Elvis and his publisher Hill and Range that the lyric had to change. They couldn't release a song with sin so prominently featured. Elvis was not happy. He liked the original. It was honest, but he was also a professional who understood the business. He knew a record that didn't get played on the radio was a dead record, so he and his team went back to the drawing board. Songwriter Ken Darby, who worked on many of Elvis's movie songs under a pseudonym for his wife, was tasked with sanitizing the lyrics. One Night of Sin became One Night with You. The line "is what I'm now paying for" became "is what I'm now praying for." The meaning of the song shifted dramatically. It went from a song of regret over a transgression to a song of longing and hope for a future with someone. It was a completely different emotional story. Elvis went back to the studio on February 23rd, 1957 to record the new version. This is the one we all know. It was released as a single in October 1958, paired with I Got Stung. It was a huge hit, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. The original, grittier version sat in the vaults. For decades, fans had no idea it even existed. The story of its censorship was just a rumor among hardcore collectors. When it finally surfaced in the 1980s, it was a revelation. Hearing Elvis sing One Night of Sin feels more powerful. It connects him directly to the blues roots that so heavily influenced his early work. The performance is darker. There's a weight to it that the pop-friendly hit version just doesn't have. You can hear the struggle in his voice. This wasn't just a man wanting to be with a girl. This was a man grappling with the consequences of his actions. The alternate take doesn't just offer a different lyric. It offers a different Elvis. It shows us the artist he could have been if he wasn't constantly being polished and sanded down for mass consumption. It reveals the tension that defined his career, the battle between the raw, bluesy singer from Memphis and the global superstar his handlers wanted him to be. The One Night of Sin take is a glimpse of the unvarnished Elvis, and it's a powerful sound. Number 22. Why did Elvis turn I Got a Woman into a comedy routine? Ray Charles wrote and recorded the original. I Got a Woman in 1954. Elvis Presley first recorded it on January 10th, 1956 for his debut RCA album. On stage, especially in the 1970s, the song often stretched to over 5 or 6 minutes, incorporating false endings, karate moves, and a lengthy blues rock jam. I Got a Woman was one of Elvis's earliest and most enduring rock and roll statements. His 1956 studio version is a tight, explosive 2.5-minute burst of energy. It's a faithful, if supercharged, cover of the Ray Charles R&B classic. It helped establish Elvis as a new kind of white artist, one who could sing black music with genuine passion and understanding. He kept the song in his live set for his entire career. But if you only know the studio version, you barely know the song as Elvis performed it. By the time he returned to the stage in 1969, I Got a Woman had transformed. It became the opening number for many of his shows. It was his way of kicking down the door and announcing his return. But it wasn't just the song anymore. It was a vehicle, it was a canvas on which he would paint a different picture every night. The official live albums like Elvis in Person at the International Hotel give you a taste of this. The song is longer, looser, and features a blistering guitar solo from James Burton, but the alternate takes and bootleg recordings tell the full story. The song would often start straight, with Elvis delivering the verses with power. But then, things would get weird. He would start playing with the lyrics, throwing in asides to the band or the audience. He'd slow it down, speed it up, and bring it to a crashing halt, only to restart it again. This is where the famous false endings came in. He would build the song to a huge climax, the band would hit a final chord, and the audience would erupt. Then, as the applause began to fade, Elvis would signal the band, and they'd launch right back into the song, often at a frantic pace. He might do this 2, 3, or even 4 times in a single performance. It was a running gag between him, the band, and the fans who knew it was coming. Then came the dive bomber ending. After the false finishes, he would often have his drummer Ronnie Tutt play a frantic, rolling drum fill, and Elvis would then sing a long, high, descending note, mimicking the sound of a falling airplane. It was pure showmanship. It had nothing to do with the Ray Charles original, but it was pure Elvis. The most significant change, however, was the addition of the Amen finale. He would tack on the gospel song Amen to the end of He Got a Woman, turning a rock and roll rave up into a full-blown church revival. He'd lead the band and the backing vocalist through the spiritual, often singling out his bass singer, J.D. Sumner, to hit an impossibly low note. This combination of secular R&B and sacred gospel in one performance was a perfect encapsulation of Elvis's musical DNA. The alternate takes show how this evolved. On some nights, the Amen section is short and sweet. On others, it's a long, drawn-out affair, with Elvis joking with J.D. and the band. These alternate live takes aren't just different versions of a song, they are documents of Elvis's mood on a given night. They show his playfulness, his connection with his band, and his deep love for all kinds of American music. The tight studio cut is the blueprint. The sprawling, chaotic, and joyous live versions are the finished lived in-house. Number 21, did Elvis really record a demo in a German bathroom? The song It's Now or Never was based on the Italian song O Sole Mio, written in 1898. Elvis recorded the song on April 3rd, 1960 in RCA's Studio B in Nashville. A private home recording, made while he was in the army in Germany, served as the demo for the session, and was first released on the 1999 compilation The Home Recordings. When Elvis Presley was discharged from the U.S. Army in March 1960, the music world held its breath. He had been away for 2 years. Rock and roll had moved on. Would he still be relevant? His first post-army recording session was crucial. It would set the tone for the next phase of his career. The song he chose to lead with was a massive gamble. It wasn't rock and roll, it was a grand operatic ballad based on a century-old Italian standard. That song was It's Now or Never. The official story is that Elvis had heard Tony Martin's 1949 song, There's No Tomorrow, which also used the melody of O Sole Mio. While stationed in Germany, he played it for his publisher, Freddie Bienstock, and said he wanted to record a new version. Songwriters Aaron Schroeder and Wally Gold were hired to write new lyrics. and the result was It's Now or Never. The version we know is a masterpiece of production. Recorded in Nashville's Studio B, it features the soaring backing vocals of the Jordanaires, Floyd Kramer's delicate piano, and one of Elvis's most impressive vocal performances. He reaches for and nails a high G at the end, a note that showcased his incredible vocal range. The record was a smash, selling over 20 million copies worldwide. It proved that Elvis could do more than just rock, but the real story of the song's creation is much more humble. It didn't begin in a state-of-the-art recording studio. It began in a rented house in Bad Nauheim, Germany, likely in a tiled bathroom chosen for its natural echo. While on leave from his army duties, Elvis would unwind by singing and playing piano or guitar. He had a reel-to-reel tape recorder and would often record these informal jam sessions. One of the songs he worked on was his new idea for Lo Sol Mio. The home recording that eventually surfaced is a stunningly intimate document. It's just Elvis and his acoustic guitar. The sound quality is rough, you can hear the room, but his voice is crystal clear. He sings the newly written lyrics with a passion and conviction that is almost startling. He isn't trying to make a hit record. He's just feeling the song. He works through the melody, trying out different phrasings. He even attempts the big high note at the end, his voice cracking slightly. It's not perfect, but it's real. This tape was the demo. He sent it to Nashville so the musicians could learn the song before he arrived for the official session. Listening to this raw take, you hear the song in its purest form. There are no soaring strings, no backup singers, just the power of the melody and the emotion in his voice. It's a direct line to the artist's thought process. You can hear him discovering the song's potential. The polished master take is what made him a global superstar. The bathroom demo is what made him an artist. It shows that even for the biggest star in the world, a great record often starts with a simple idea, a guitar, and a voice. The alternate take isn't an outtake, it's the seed from which the mighty tree grew. Number 20. What was wrong with the first version of A Little Less Conversation? The original version of A Little Less Conversation was recorded on March 7th, 1968 for the movie Live a Little, Love a Little. The more famous, punchier version was recorded on June 23rd, 1968 for his NBC television special. The Junkie, the 40th remix of the TV special version became a worldwide #1 hit in 2002, 34 years after it was recorded. Most of the world knows A Little Less Conversation from the 2002 remix that took the charts by storm. That version, built around Elvis's powerful vocal from his 1968 comeback special, is a funky, driving, infectious piece of dance music. It's so iconic that many people assume it was the original, but it wasn't. The story of A Little Less Conversation is a story of second chances and artistic evolution. The first time Elvis recorded the song was in March 1968. It was for one of his last movies, Live a Little, Love a Little. By this point, the movie soundtracks had become a creative dead end for him. The songs were often formulaic and uninspired. This first version of A Little Less Conversation is a product of that environment. It's faster than the comeback special version. The arrangement is busy and cluttered, filled with blaring horns and a kind of generic Go-style percussion. Elvis's vocal is fine, but it sounds a bit rushed and detached. He's hitting the notes, but he's not living inside the song. It was used in the movie and released on a minor soundtrack album and then largely forgotten. 3 months later, everything had changed. Elvis was in rehearsals for his NBC TV special, a project that would resurrect his career and reestablish him as a vital, relevant artist. He was surrounded by a hot, young band, and he was singing music he was passionate about. He decided to revisit A Little Less Conversation. He must have seen some potential in the song that the movie version had failed to capture. This new take, recorded in a proper studio session for the special, is a world apart from the first. The tempo is pulled back just slightly, giving the song a swampy, funkier groove. The arrangement is stripped down. The horns are tighter and punchier. The bass and drums lock into an irresistible rhythm. But the biggest difference is Elvis. His voice is a weapon. He attacks the lyrics with a snarl and a swagger that was completely absent from the movie version. You can hear the confidence in his voice. This isn't the tired movie star, this is the king of rock and roll, reclaiming his throne. He ad-libs, he grunts, he pushes the song into a whole new territory. This version was intended to be part of a musical number in the special, but it was cut for time. It remained unreleased for years, a lost gem known only to collectors who had heard session tapes. It finally got an official release in the 1990s. Then, in 2002, Dutch DJ Junkie the 40th got his hands on it. He took that incredible vocal, added a modern dance beat, and created a global phenomenon. Listening to the two 1968 versions back-to-back is like a compressed lesson in Elvis's career. The first take represents the creative malaise of the Hollywood years. It's professional but soulless. The second take is the sound of his artistic rebirth. It's raw, exciting, and full of the fire that made him a legend in the first place. The Lost Take wasn't just an alternate version, it was a better version, one that was waiting for the world to catch up. Number 19, Could Elvis Handle the High Note in Tomorrow Never Comes. Tomorrow Never Comes was recorded during the legendary marathon sessions at RCA's Studio B in Nashville on June 7, 1970. The song requires the singer to hit a powerful high A flat. The struggle and eventual triumph of Elvis hitting this note are documented on the session outtakes released on various FTD collector's editions. By 1970, Elvis was on top of the world again. His 68 comeback special and his subsequent return to live performing in Las Vegas had been massive successes. He followed it up with a series of acclaimed recording sessions in Memphis that produced hits like Suspicious Minds and In the Ghetto. In June 1970, he returned to Nashville, the site of many of his classic 50s and 60s recordings, for a 5-day marathon session. The goal was to record enough material for 3 full albums. The pressure was immense. One of the songs he chose to tackle was Tomorrow Never Comes', a powerful ballad written by country singer Ernest Tubb. It's a dramatic, almost operatic song about lost love, and it builds to a huge, vocally demanding climax. The final line requires the singer to hold a sustained, powerful high note. For a singer like Elvis, who prided himself on his vocal ability, this was a challenge he was eager to meet. The session tapes tell a fascinating story of artistic struggle. Take 1 falls apart almost immediately. On take 2, he gets through the song, but his voice cracks on the final high note. He stops, clearly frustrated. It's a bitch, he says, his voice raw. He tries to explain the note to the band, trying to get the phrasing just right. He knows what he wants to do, but his voice isn't cooperating. He tries it again. He makes it through the song, but the ending is still not quite right. It's good, but it's not the monumental, show-stopping moment he's looking for. You can hear the tension in the studio. Elvis is getting more and more frustrated with himself. He jokes around with the band to break the tension, but you can tell he's determined to nail it. He was known for his perfectionism in the studio, often doing dozens of takes to get a song exactly the way he heard it in his head. This was one of those moments. He asks the engineer to play back the last attempt. He listens intently, analyzing his own performance. And then they go for another take. Okay, this time everything clicks. He sings a song with incredible passion and control. As he approaches the final line, you can almost hear him steeling himself. He takes a breath and unleashes the note. It's perfect. It's powerful, sustained, and full of emotion. The song ends, and there's a moment of silence in the studio before someone says, "That's the one." You can hear the relief and satisfaction in Elvis's voice as he agrees. This wasn't just about hitting a high note. It was about proving to himself and to everyone in that room that he still had it. At 35, an age when many rock singers' voices were starting to fade, his was arguably at its peak. These alternate takes, with all their mistakes and moments of frustration, are more compelling than the perfect, polished master. They pull back the curtain and show the hard work that went into making these effortless-sounding records. They show us that even for Elvis Presley, greatness didn't always come easy. Sometimes he had to fight for it. Number 18, What Did a Crying Baby Have to Do with Blue Suede Shoes? Elvis recorded his famous version of Blue Suede Shoes on January 30th, 1956 at RCA Studios in New York. The session was tense because Elvis felt RCA was rushing him to cover the Carl Perkins original, which was already a hit. An alternate take reveals Elvis stopping the performance mid-song because a sound in the studio distracted him, thinking it was a crying baby. Carl Perkins wrote and recorded Blue Suede Shoes in 1955 at Sun Studio in Memphis. It became a smash hit, one of the first songs to cross over from the country charts to the pop and R&B charts. It was a rock and roll anthem. Sam Phillips, the head of Sun Records, had recently sold Elvis's contract to RCA for the then unheard of sum of $35,000. Phillips believed Perkins was his next big star. RCA, however, had other ideas. They saw the potential of Blue Suede Shoes and wanted their new star Elvis to record it immediately. Elvis was reluctant. Carl Perkins was a friend. They had come up through the Memphis music scene together. Covering another artist's hit while it was still on the charts was considered bad form. But RCA insisted. They wanted to capitalize on the song's popularity. So, just a few weeks after signing with his new label, Elvis found himself in a New York studio cutting a song he didn't really want to sing. The pressure was on. He had to deliver a version that could compete with the iconic Perkins original. The session tapes reveal an artist trying to find his own way into the song. He and his band Scotty Moore on guitar, Bill Black on bass, and DJ Fontana on drums blast through the song with raw energy. The RCA version is faster and more aggressive than the Sun original. On one of the surviving alternate takes, something interesting happens. Right in the middle of a fiery guitar solo from Scotty Moore, Elvis suddenly yells, "Hold it, fellas! Hold it!" The band grinds to a halt. Elvis sounds confused and a little annoyed. "What is that?" he asks. He tells the control room that he hears a sound in his headphones and he can't concentrate. He describes it as sounding like a baby crying. The engineers are confused. There are no babies in the studio. They check the equipment. They can't find the source of the noise. After a brief pause, they decide to try another take. This time, they get through it. This became the master take, the version that was released on his debut album and became a hit in its own right. The crying baby incident is a small moment, a forgotten bit of studio chatter, but it reveals a lot. It shows the intense focus Elvis had in the studio. Any small distraction could throw him off. It also highlights the pressure cooker environment of that session. He was in an unfamiliar city, in a big corporate studio, being forced to record a song he had reservations about. He was trying to live up to the massive hype surrounding his signing to RCA. This alternate take gives us a human moment amidst the creation of a rock and roll classic. It reminds us that these legendary recordings weren't created in a vacuum. They were made by real people under real pressure, dealing with strange noises in their headphones and the weight of expectation. The polished final product gives no hint of this momentary chaos, but the outtake preserves it, offering a more complete and much more interesting picture of how a classic song was made. Number 17 was the original Love Me Tender Goodbye. The master recording of Love Me Tender was recorded on August 24th, 1956 at 20th Century Fox's Stage 1. An alternate version with different phrasing and a more somber tone was recorded as the end title for the film of the same name. This version, featuring heavy reverb and sparse backing, remained unavailable to the public for many years. Love Me Tender was a turning point in Elvis's career. It was the title song for his first movie. It was also his first true ballad to be released as a single. Up to that point, he was known for his high-energy rock and roll. Love Me Tender showed a softer, more romantic side. The melody was adapted from the Civil War-era folk song Ali. The lyrics were written by Ken Darby, though the credit was given to his wife Vera Mattson and to Elvis himself, a common practice to give the star a share of the publishing royalties. The version of the song that became a #1 hit is a simple, beautiful recording. It features just Elvis's voice and his acoustic guitar with gentle backing from a male quartet. It's warm, intimate, and deeply romantic. It's the sound of a young man declaring his love. But there was another version recorded during the same sessions. This was for the end credits of the movie. In the film, Elvis's character, Clint Reno, is tragically killed. The song is meant to be a final, haunting farewell. To achieve this, the arrangement was changed dramatically. The producers added a huge amount of echo to Elvis's voice, making it sound distant and ethereal, as if it were coming from beyond the grave. The sparse guitar backing is even more minimal, and the backing vocalists create a ghostly choir. The biggest difference, though, is Elvis's performance. He sings the song at a slightly slower tempo, his phrasing is different, he holds the notes longer, letting them hang in the air. There's a sadness and a finality in his delivery that isn't present in the hit single version. When he sings the line, "For my darling, I love you, and I always will," it doesn't sound like a promise for the future. It sounds like a memory. It's a ghost lament. For years, this end title version was only available by listening to the end of the movie. It wasn't included on the soundtrack EP or any of Elvis's albums. It was a lost piece of the puzzle. When it was finally released on collector's editions, it gave fans a new perspective on this classic song. It showed how a few small changes in arrangement and performance could completely alter a song's emotional impact. The single is a love song. The end title version is a eulogy. This alternate take demonstrates Elvis's skill as a vocal actor. He wasn't just singing the same song twice, he was performing two different interpretations based on the emotional context. He understood that the song needed to mean one thing on the radio and something entirely different in the movie. The lost end title version is a testament to his artistic intelligence and his ability to convey deep emotion with just his voice. It's the darker, sadder twin to one of his most beloved hits. Number 16, did Elvis want to be a gospel singer? During rehearsals for his 1973 Aloha from Hawaii television special, Elvis performed a stunningly raw version of the Hank Williams classic "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry." This impromptu performance was captured on film but cut from the final broadcast. It first appeared on the 1978 posthumous album Elvis: A Canadian Tribute. In January 1973, Elvis Presley was preparing for the biggest show of his life. The Aloha from Hawaii concert was to be broadcast live via satellite to over 1 billion people around the world. The pressure was immense. The set list was carefully chosen to showcase all sides of his talent: the rock and roller, the pop balladeer, the Vegas showman. But in the quiet moments of rehearsal, away from the glare of the main event, the real Elvis sometimes emerged. During a break in rehearsals at the Honolulu International Center, Elvis picked up an acoustic guitar and started to sing. It wasn't one of his own hits. It was "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry," the heartbreaking country ballad written and recorded by his idol, Hank Williams. The cameras were rolling, capturing the moment. What they filmed was not a performance for a global audience. It was something deeply personal. The version of the song is stark and stripped down. It's just Elvis and his guitar with a few of his band members quietly joining in. His voice is raw with emotion. He's not performing the song, he's living it. He closes his eyes as he sings, channeling the profound loneliness of Williams' lyrics. There are no karate moves, no glitzy jumpsuits, no grand gestures. It's just a man and a song that means something to him. At the end of the performance, he turns to the small group watching and says with genuine humility, "I'd like to do that on the show, but it's so sad." The performance was deemed too downbeat for the triumphant tone of the Aloha special and was left on the cutting room floor. It was a missed opportunity. While the special was a huge success, it presented a very specific image of Elvis, the larger-than-life superstar. This rehearsal footage showed another side, the sensitive artist, deeply connected to the roots of his music. When the footage and recording were finally released years later, it became a fan favorite. It's considered by many to be one of the most honest and moving performances of his career. It reveals where his heart truly was. For all his success in rock and pop, Elvis always saw himself as a singer of country and gospel music. Those were the songs that spoke to his soul. This lost take is more than just an alternate version. It's a window into the man behind the myth. In a high-stakes, high-pressure environment, he found solace in a simple, sad country song. It's a reminder that beneath the gold lame and the Las Vegas spectacle, he was still the boy from Tupelo, Mississippi, who fell in love with the mournful sound of the Grand Ole Opry on the radio. He might have been the king, but he never forgot where he came from. Number 15 was Moody Blue, A Cry for Help. The song Moody Blue was recorded in February 1976 in the Jungle Room, the den of Elvis's Graceland home. An undubbed session take, without the strings and horns, reveals a rawer, more vulnerable vocal performance. This version first surfaced on the 1990s box set From Nashville to Memphis, the Essential 60s Masters. By 1976, Elvis's health was in serious decline. He was overweight, plagued by numerous health problems, and increasingly dependent on prescription drugs. His motivation to record was at an all-time low. His producer, Felton Jarvis, was so desperate to get new material that he brought a mobile recording truck to Graceland and turned the den, with its shag carpets and fake waterfall, into a makeshift studio. This was the famous Jungle Room session. One of the songs recorded during these sessions was Moody Blue, a slick contemporary country pop song written by Mark James. The version that was released as a single and became the title track of Elvis's last studio album is a polished production. It features a prominent string section, horns, and a group of female backing vocalists. It's a catchy, well-made record, but Elvis's voice sounds a bit distant, almost buried in the mix. It was a minor hit, his last to reach the top 40 in his lifetime. The alternate take, a raw, undubbed master from the session, tells a very different story. When you strip away all the post-production sweetening, you are left with just Elvis and his core band. The effect is startling. The song is suddenly much more intimate and intense. But the most dramatic difference is Elvis's vocal. Without the strings and backing vocals to hide behind, his voice is front and center, and it is filled with a raw, desperate energy. He attacks the song with a ferocity that is missing from the final version. You can hear the strain in his voice. You can hear his labored breathing between lines. The lyrics, about a woman who is unpredictable and hard to understand, suddenly sound deeply personal. When he sings, "And You're a Moody Blue," it sounds less like an observation about a lover and more like a self-diagnosis. He sounds like a man trying to sing his way through his pain and confusion. The Jungle Room sessions were by all accounts difficult. Elvis was often distracted and uncooperative, but there were moments when the old magic flared up. This raw take of Moody Blue is one of those moments. It's the sound of a great artist fighting against his own demons. It's not a perfect vocal. It's ragged and frayed around the edges. But that's what makes it so powerful. It's honest. The polished single gives you the 1970s superstar. The undubbed alternate take gives you the man. It's a chilling and deeply moving performance that offers a glimpse into Elvis's state of mind during his final years. It's a reminder that even when he was at his lowest point physically, his artistic spirit was still capable of producing moments of breathtaking power. Number 14, why did Elvis laugh during his saddest song? On August 26, 1969, during a midnight show at the International Hotel in Las Vegas, Elvis famously broke into uncontrollable laughter while singing "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" This version was released as a single in 1980 and became a hit. What is less known is that this was not a one-time event. Several other live recordings exist where he also laughs during the song. "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" was a song Elvis had a deep connection to. It was one of his mother's favorite songs. He recorded his classic version in 1960, and it became one of his signature ballads. It's a song of profound heartbreak and loneliness, featuring a dramatic spoken word bridge. On stage in Las Vegas, it was a moment for quiet reflection in an otherwise high-energy show. The story of the famous lawing version is part of Elvis lore. During the spoken bridge, Elvis saw a bald man in the front row take off his toupee and wipe his head. The sight was so absurd that Elvis started to chuckle. He tried to compose himself, but he couldn't. His chuckles turned into full-blown laughter. The band played on, trying to keep a straight face. The backing singer, Cissy Houston, sang her soprano part with perfect professionalism, which only made Elvis laugh harder. He managed to get through the rest of the song, but his voice was cracking with laughter the whole time. The audience loved it. It was a moment of spontaneous, unscripted humanity. RCA eventually released a recording of this performance, and it became a novelty hit. It's often presented as a unique one of a kind event. But it wasn't. The truth is, Elvis had a problem with "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" He often found it difficult to get through the spoken word section with a straight face. There are numerous bootleg and soundboard recordings from other shows where he also breaks down. Sometimes it was because of something happening in the audience. Other times he would change the lyrics for his own amusement. Instead of the dramatic line, "Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there?" he would sometimes say, "Do you gaze at your bald head and wish you had hair?" Or he'd change, "Do you see the stage is bare?" to "Do you see the stage is bare?" and then start making growling noises. These alternate lying versions reveal a different side of Elvis the performer. He had a mischievous, almost childish sense of humor. He loved to break the fourth wall and share an inside joke with his band and his audience. While the song was supposed to be a serious, dramatic moment, it often became a moment of comic relief. It also shows the strain of performing the same material night after night. By the mid-1970s, he was sometimes bored with his own greatest hits. Messing around with the lyrics of a song like "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" was his way of keeping himself entertained. These lost takes transform a sad ballad into a comedy routine. They show us an Elvis who, even in the midst of his extravagant Vegas spectacle, was still capable of being silly and spontaneous. The perfect, heartbreaking 1960 master is a classic. The imperfect, hilarious live versions show us the man behind the legend, a man who sometimes just couldn't stop laughing. Number 13, what's the lost verse of Heartbreak Hotel? Heartbreak Hotel was Elvis's first million-selling single for RCA, recorded on January 10th, 1956. Most people are familiar with the three-verse version released on the record. An earlier take from the session includes a fourth verse that was cut from the final master, making the song's story even more bleak. This take was first widely available on the 1985 box set Elvis: A Golden Celebration. Heartbreak Hotel was unlike anything else on the radio in 1956. It was dark, moody, and full of a kind of desolate adult despair. The lyrics, written by Mayborn Axton and Tommy Durden, were inspired by a newspaper article about a man who had jumped from a hotel window. The song describes a lonely place at the end of a lonely street where broken-hearted lovers go to die. It's a chillin' gothic vision set to a stark, minimalist blues arrangement. The sound is dominated by Bill Black's spooky-sounding bass and the cavernous echo RCA's engineers added to Elvis's voice. The version that became a hit is a masterpiece of economy. It tells its story in three short verses. The first verse sets the scene. The second introduces some of the hotel's sad residents, like the bellhop whose tears have dried up. The third verse describes the tragic end of the inhabitants, who could be so lonely they could die. It's a perfect, self-contained, short story. But the session tapes reveal that the song was originally longer. An earlier complete take features a fourth verse that comes after the second verse. The lyrics are, "You make a little scene, you take a little dream. That's the story of the Heartbreak Hotel. And if your baby's gone and you're all alone, you can get a room at Heartbreak Hotel." This lost verse doesn't dramatically change the song's narrative, but it does add a layer of detail and reinforces the theme of despair. The line, "You make a little scene, you take a little dream," is particularly interesting. It suggests a theatricality to the sadness, as if the residents of the hotel are actors in their own personal tragedies. It also adds a sense of surrealism to the song's atmosphere. So why was it cut? The decision was likely made for commercial reasons. In the 1950s, singles were kept short to maximize radio play. A song that was over 2 minutes was considered long. Cutting the verse brought Heartbreak Hotel to a more radio-friendly length of just over 2 minutes. It also tightened the narrative, making the song more focused and impactful. The decision was probably the right one from a commercial standpoint. The edited version is leaner and meaner, but listening to the alternate take with the extra verse is a fascinating experience. It's like finding a deleted scene from a classic movie. It gives you a slightly different perspective on a familiar work of art. It makes the hotel seem even more like a permanent, inescapable place. The lost verse is a small detail, but it adds to the mythology of Elvis's first, and arguably strangest, #1 hit. It's a reminder that even the most iconic songs were once works in progress, subject to the practical decisions of the recording studio. Number 12. Did Suspicious Minds almost end differently? Suspicious Minds was recorded in January 1969 at American Sound Studio in Memphis and became Elvis's final #1 hit in the US. The song is famous for its unusual false fade out and fade in at the end. An undubbed session take reveals the song as it was recorded, a continuous, powerful performance without the fade, which was a post-production decision by producer Felton Jarvis. Suspicious Minds is arguably the crowning achievement of Elvis's 1969 Memphis sessions. It's a magnificent piece of pop soul, a dramatic song about a relationship poisoned by mistrust. The production is huge, with a driving rhythm section, powerful horns, and a soaring female choir. And at the center of it all is one of Elvis's most passionate and committed vocal performances. One of the song's most distinctive features is its ending. Around the 3.5-minute mark, the song fades out completely, as if it's over. Then, after a few seconds of silence, it fades back in with even greater intensity, with Elvis ad-libbing powerfully over the band for another minute before the final fade. This was a highly unusual production choice for the time. For years, fans wondered how this came about. Was it a mistake? Was it intentional? The story goes that producer Chips Moman, who ran American Sound Studio, had produced the track as a continuous performance. When he sent the tapes to RCA in Nashville, Elvis's producer Felton Jarvis decided to add the fade out and fade in. He felt that the song was too long for radio and wanted to create a dramatic effect. Moman was reportedly furious when he heard the final record, feeling that Jarvis had butchered his production. Elvis himself was in Las Vegas when he first heard the single on the radio and was initially confused by the ending, but he came to love it. The alternate takes and session outtakes finally give us the full picture. When you listen to the raw, unedited master take, you hear the song as it was performed in the studio. It's a continuous 6-minute powerhouse. The band never stops. After the main part of the song, they lock into the outro groove, and Elvis just lets loose. He sings with a kind of desperate, joyful abandon. It's the sound of an artist completely in the zone, feeding off the energy of the incredible studio band. Hearing this undubbed version is a revelation. Without the fade, the song's momentum is unstoppable. It just builds and builds to an incredible climax. You can understand why Chips Moman was so proud of the original recording and so upset by the change. His version is a pure, unadulterated soul performance. So which version is better? It's a matter of taste. Felton Jarvis's fade-out gimmick was a brilliant commercial instinct. It made the record stand out on the radio. It was a hook, it grabbed the listener's attention and created a moment of high drama. The single as released is a perfectly crafted piece of pop art. But the raw, continuous take is arguably the greater artistic statement. It's more honest, it's the sound of a group of brilliant musicians creating a moment of magic together in a room. The alternate take doesn't diminish the classic hit. It enhances our appreciation of it by showing us the incredible raw material they were working with. It proves that underneath the clever production tricks, Suspicious Minds was, at its heart, simply a phenomenal performance. On number 11 was Burning Love, Too Long for Radio. Burning Love was recorded on March 28th, 1972 at RCA's Hollywood Studios. It was Elvis's last major hit, reaching number 2 on the Billboard charts. The released single version is just under 3 minutes long. The full, unedited take from the session runs for over 5 minutes and features an extended jam at the end. By 1972, Elvis was deep into his jumpsuit era. His music was dominated by big ballads and grand stage productions. He hadn't had a real straight-ahead rock and roll hit in years. Then a songwriter named Dennis Lind brought him Burning Love. It was a fantastic up-tempo rock song with a driving beat and a catchy chorus. Elvis loved it. The recording session was a blast. You can hear the energy and enthusiasm in the studio. Elvis is in fine voice, and the band is on fire. And James Burton lays down a classic, stinging guitar riff, and Ronnie Tutt's drumming is explosive. They nail the song quickly. The version that was released as a single is a perfect piece of pop rock. It's tight, concise, and full of energy. It gets in, does its job, and gets out in under 3 minutes. But that's not how it went down in the studio. The session tapes reveal that after the official end of the song, the band just kept playing. They locked into the outro riff and just jammed on it. And Elvis kept singing for another 2 minutes. He ad-libs, whoops, and hollers over the top of the band. He's just having fun, riding the wave of the song's incredible groove. He sings, "I'm just a hunka, burnin' love," over and over, trying out different inflections, pushing his voice, and enjoying the moment. This extended jam was, of course, cut from the single. In 1972, a 5-minute rock song was an anomaly, usually reserved for serious, album-oriented rock bands, not for a pop artist like Elvis. The decision to edit it down was purely commercial, and it was the right decision. The tight single version was a smash hit, re-establishing Elvis's rock and roll credentials. When the full, unedited version finally surfaced on box sets and collector's editions, it was a joy for fans to hear. The extended outro doesn't necessarily make it a better song, but it makes it a better recording experience. It puts you in the studio with the band. You can feel the chemistry and the pure joy of making music. It shows Elvis not as a polished icon, but as a working musician getting lost in the groove. This alternate take is a celebration of the creative process. The single is the finished product, perfectly packaged for public consumption. The long version is the behind-the-scenes documentary. It's messier, looser, and in some ways, more exciting. It's the sound of the king of rock and roll simply rocking out, not for the charts, but for the sheer love of it. Number 10, could Can't Help Falling in Love have been a flop? Can't Help Falling in Love was recorded on March 23rd, 1961 for the movie Blue Hawaii. The song's melody is based on a French love song from 1784, Plaisir d'amour. Early takes from the session show a very different, more up-tempo and less emotional version of the song that was wisely abandoned. Can't Help Falling in Love is one of Elvis Presley's most enduring and beloved songs. It's a staple at weddings and anniversaries. It's his quintessential romantic ballad. The version we all know is a masterpiece of subtlety and restraint. The arrangement is simple, built around a delicate, finger-picked electric guitar and Floyd Kramer's gentle piano. Elvis's vocal is a marvel of tenderness and sincerity. It's a slow, graceful dance of a song. It's almost impossible to imagine it any other way. But the session tapes from that day in March 1961 tell a surprising story. When Elvis and his band first started working on the song, their initial approach was completely different. The early takes are much faster. The rhythm is a kind of clumsy, shuffling beat. It almost sounds like a cha-cha. Elvis sings the lyrics in a more forceful, almost jaunty way. It sounds less like a heartfelt declaration of love and more like a casual pickup line. Listening to these early attempts is a strange experience. The beautiful melody is there, but the emotional core is completely missing. It's a square peg in a round hole. You can hear the frustration in the studio as they try to make this arrangement work. It just isn't clicking. Take after take falls apart. The song feels awkward and forced. If this had been the version they released, Can't Help Falling in Love would have been a forgotten piece of movie soundtrack filler. It certainly wouldn't have become a timeless classic. Then, someone in the studio, some accounts say it was Elvis himself, others credit one of the musicians had a brilliant idea. They decided to slow it all the way down. They stripped away the clunky rhythm and rebuilt the song from the ground up as a true ballad. The difference is immediate and profound. On the first take of the new slow arrangement, you can hear the magic happening. Everything falls into place. The melody is allowed to breathe. The lyrics suddenly have weight and meaning. And Elvis delivers a vocal performance that is simply sublime. He finds the emotional truth of the song. The session for Can't Help Falling in Love is a perfect example of the creative process at its best. It shows that great records are not always born fully formed. They are often the result of trial and error. The alternate up-tempo takes are fascinating because they show us the wrong path. They are a record of a bad idea, but they make us appreciate the final version even more. They show us that A single decision, in this case, the decision to change the tempo, can be the difference between a flop and a masterpiece. Number 9, what was the joke in Jailhouse Rock? The song Jailhouse Rock was recorded on April 30th, 1957. The version released as a single is slightly different from the version used in the movie of the same name. The movie version contains extra instrumentation and a slightly different vocal take, including a moment where Elvis seems to be on the verge of laughing. Jailhouse Rock is one of the most explosive and iconic rock and roll records ever made. From its powerful opening drum beat to its blistering guitar solo, it's a 2.5-minute burst of pure, unadulterated energy. The song was written by the legendary team of Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, and it's a masterpiece of witty, rebellious songwriting. Elvis's performance is simply ferocious. It's the sound of a cultural revolution. Most people are familiar with the hit single version. It's the one that's been played on the radio for over 60 years. But there's another version that many people have heard without even realizing it's different, the one that appears in the film. The movie Jailhouse Rock features one of the most famous musical numbers in cinema history, with Elvis performing the song in an elaborate prison set. If you listen closely to the audio from the movie version, you'll notice a few subtle differences. The most obvious is the instrumentation. The movie version has a slightly fuller sound, with an added trombone part that punctuates the rhythm. This gives the song an even punchier, more aggressive feel. But the most interesting difference is in Elvis's vocal. It's a different take from the single. For most of the song, the performance is very similar, but there's one small moment that stands out. It's during the verse that describes the prison band. The prison band was there, and they began to wail. The band was jumping, and the joint began to swing. On the movie take, right after he sings the word wail, you can hear a slight chuckle in Elvis's voice. He sounds like he's sharing an inside joke. What was the joke? The lyric sheet that Leiber and Stoller gave to Elvis contained some famously suggestive and humorous lines, some of which were considered too risque for the final record. One line described 2 male inmates, Sad Sack and Shifty Henry, who were buggy, a slang term for being infatuated with each other. Another line was, number 47 said to number 3, "You're the cutest jailbird I ever did see." This line made it into the final song. It's possible that Elvis was amused by the clever, slightly subversive humor of the lyrics, and that amusement bled through into his performance. The movie version is a fascinating alternate take because it's the one that is tied to the iconic visual image of Elvis in his prison stripes. The slightly looser, more amused vocal performance fits the rebellious, swaggering character he was playing. The single is a perfect rock record. The movie version is a perfect piece of rock and roll theater. The small differences show how a performance can be tailored for a different medium. The slight laugh in the vocal is a small crack in the polished facade, a glimpse of the playful personality behind the sneer. Number 8 was Unchained Melody, Elvis's final goodbye. Elvis performed Unchained Melody during his final concert tour in June 1977. A performance from Rapid City, South Dakota, was filmed for the TV special Elvis in Concert. The raw audio from the soundboard reveals a breathtakingly vulnerable performance, stripped of the post-production additions on the official release. In the spring of 1977, Elvis Presley was a dying man. He was in terrible physical shape, and his concerts were erratic. Some nights he was brilliant, on others he was a shadow of his former self, but even in this diminished state, he was still capable of moments of astonishing musical power. One of the highlights of his final shows was his performance of Unchained Melody. The version that most people know is from the posthumously released TV special Elvis in Concert. In the footage, Elvis sits at a piano. He's overweight and visibly unwell. He apologizes to the audience, saying he's not a very good piano player. Then he begins to sing. The performance is heartbreaking. His voice is thick with emotion and effort. It's the sound of a man pouring every last ounce of his spirit into a song. The official version, as released on the album, has added strings and other instrumentation, an attempt to sweeten the raw performance. But the real power of this performance is revealed in the alternate take, the raw, undubbed soundboard recording. Without the added strings, there is nothing to distract from the raw emotion of the moment. It's just Elvis, the piano, and his voice. And that voice is a wonder. It may not have the youthful purity of his early years, but it has a depth and a pathos that is almost unbearable. You can hear his every breath. You can hear the slight tremor in his voice as he reaches for the high notes. You can hear the immense physical effort it's taking him to get through the song. This is not a performance about technique. It's about pure, raw feeling. When he sings the climactic line, "I need your love," it's not a romantic plea. It's a cry from the soul. It's the sound of a man who knows he is at the end of his rope. This raw take is one of the most difficult and most rewarding listening experiences in Elvis's entire catalog. It's a document of an artist's last stand. It's stripped of all artifice. There is no Vegas spectacle, no karate moves, just the terrifying, beautiful sound of a human being laid bare. He would be dead less than 2 months later. Listening to this performance feels like an intrusion on a private moment. It's so personal, so vulnerable. It's Elvis saying goodbye, not just to his audience, but to his own life and his own talent. The official, sweetened version is a powerful TV moment. The raw soundboard recording is a piece of history. It's the final, haunting chapter in the story of the greatest voice of the 20th century. Number 7, who was the woman who interrupted my way? During the Aloha from Hawaii concert in 1973, Elvis sang a powerful version of My Way. A woman in the audience gave him a medallion during the song's quiet instrumental break. While this moment is visible in the concert film, alternate audio mixes and soundboard recordings make the interaction and Elvis's gracious response much clearer. My Way was not a song Elvis recorded in the studio. It was a song he owned on stage. He adopted the Frank Sinatra anthem in the 1970s and turned it into his own personal statement. It became a centerpiece of his live shows, a grand, defiant declaration of independence. His performance of the song during the Aloha from Hawaii special is one of his most iconic. Backed by a full orchestra, he sings it with a power and conviction that sends shivers down the spine. In the middle of the song, there is an instrumental break. The orchestra plays the main theme softly while Elvis stands at the center of the stage, gathering himself for the song's huge climax. In the concert film, you can see a woman approach the stage and hand him something. He takes it, smiles, and gives her a quick kiss on the cheek before turning his attention back to the song. It happens so quickly that it's easy to miss. The alternate audio sources from the concert, particularly the raw soundboard feed, give us a much clearer understanding of this moment. Because the microphone on the stage is live, you can hear the interaction more clearly than on the final broadcast mix, where the audience noise is suppressed. You can hear the woman's excited voice as she calls out to him. You can hear Elvis's soft, "Thank you, darling," as he accepts her gift. It was a gold medallion. This small, unscripted moment is significant. Here he is, in the middle of the biggest, most technologically advanced concert of its time, being broadcast to 1 billion people. He's singing a song that is the very definition of epic self-assertion, and yet he has the grace and the presence of mind to stop, acknowledge a fan, and share a genuine human connection. This moment is a perfect illustration of the paradox of Elvis. He was a global superstar, a mythic figure, but he never lost his connection to his audience. He fed off their energy, and he always treated them with a kindness and generosity that was remarkable for someone of his stature. The alternate audio take doesn't change the musical performance of My Way, but it does change our understanding of it. It adds a layer of intimacy to a performance that is all about grandeur. It reminds us that even when he was the king of the world, standing on a stage in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, he was still accessible. The roar of the orchestra and the adulation of the crowd were immense, but he could still hear the voice of a single fan. Number 6. What made the polk salad, Annie rehearsal, so special. Polk salad, Annie was a staple of Elvis's live shows in the 1970s. A rehearsal take from the 1970 documentary Elvis, That's the Way It is considered by many fans to be the definitive version. This take is looser, funkier, and more humorous than most of the official live recordings. Tony Joe White's Polk Salad Annie was the perfect song for Elvis's 1970s stage act. It was a swampy, bluesy story song with a driving rhythm that allowed him to showcase his famous dance moves. His live versions of the song were legendary. They were high-energy, sweat-drenched performances that often ended with him doing karate kicks and splits. The official live versions, like the one on the Onstage album, are fantastic. They capture the excitement and power of his stage show. But there's another version that many fans and critics believe is even better. It wasn't recorded at a concert in front of thousands of people. It was recorded during a rehearsal at the MGM Soundstage in Culver City, California in July 1970. This rehearsal was being filmed for the documentary Elvis, That's the Way It Is. The cameras captured Elvis and his band in a relaxed, informal setting. They were dressed in street clothes, just working through the material for their upcoming Las Vegas engagement. When they launch into Polk Salad Annie, something magical happens. Freed from the pressure of a formal concert, the performance is incredibly loose and funky. The groove is deeper and more relaxed. James Burton's guitar playing is slinky and inventive, but the real star is Elvis. He's clearly having a blast. He ad-libs lyrics, makes jokes with the band, and dances with a joyful, uninhibited energy. His vocal is a revelation. He growls, he shouts, he plays with the phrasing. He's not just singing the song, he's inhabiting it. One of the most memorable moments comes when he starts making up lyrics about the food he ate as a child in the South, including turnip greens and black-eyed peas. He's laughing as he sings, sharing a cultural memory with his Southern bandmates. It's a moment of pure, unscripted joy. This rehearsal take is superior to many of the live versions because it feels more authentic. The concert performances were sometimes a bit theatrical and rushed. The rehearsal version is all about the music. It's the sound of a group of incredible musicians finding the perfect groove. It's also a glimpse of Elvis at his most charismatic and playful. He's not the king, he's the leader of a really hot band. The That's the Way It Is documentary gave the world its first look at the working, creating Elvis. This performance of Polk Salad Annie is the highlight of the film. The alternate take, captured by the documentary cameras, isn't just a rehearsal. It's the definitive performance of the song, a moment of lightning in a bottle. Number 5, How Did the Ghetto Change? From a Story to a Prayer. In the Ghetto was a major comeback hit for Elvis in 1969. It was a socially conscious song about the cycle of poverty. A vocal-only outtake, stripping away all instrumentation, reveals the incredible vulnerability and empathy in Elvis's performance. In the Ghetto was a risky song for Elvis to record in 1969. It was a narrative song written by Mac Davis that told the story of a boy born into poverty in Chicago who grows up to be a criminal and is killed, only for another child to be born into the same hopeless situation. It was a direct piece of social commentary, the kind of song Elvis had always avoided. But he felt a deep connection to the lyrics. He had grown up poor in Tupelo and Memphis. He understood the struggle. The final released version of the song is a beautifully produced record. The arrangement is classic 1960s pop with strings, backing vocals, and a gentle acoustic-based rhythm. It's a powerful and moving song, and Elvis's vocal is filled with a quiet, sad dignity. It became a huge international hit and helped to re-establish him as a serious contemporary artist. But to truly understand the greatness of his performance, you have to hear the alternate take the vocal-only track. On some of the deluxe reissues of the From Elvis in Memphis's album, the producers isolated Elvis's lead vocal, removing all the instrumentation. The result is one of the most powerful and intimate listening experiences in his entire catalog. With nothing to distract from his voice, You can hear every nuance of his performance. You can hear the catch in his throat as he sings about the hungry child. You can hear the righteous anger in his voice as he describes the uncaring world. You can hear the profound sadness and empathy he feels for the characters in the song. It's not a performance, it's a testimony. The most powerful moment comes at the end of the song. As the story of the young man's death concludes, Elvis sings the final lines about the birth of another baby with a quiet, desperate intensity. On the released version, this moment is supported by the rising strings and backing vocals. On the vocal-only track, it's just his voice, cracking with emotion, alone in the darkness. It transforms the song from a social commentary into a prayer. It's the sound of a man pleading for a better world. This alternate take proves what a masterful interpretive singer Elvis was. He didn't just sing the words, he understood their meaning and conveyed it with every fiber of his being. The beautiful production of the hit single made the song palatable for a mass audience. The raw, vocal-only track shows you the soul of the artist. It's a performance of such raw, unvarnished honesty that it's almost difficult to listen to. It is the sound of pure empathy. Number 4 was the one supposed to be a ballad. Was the B-side to Elvis's first RCA single, Heartbreak Hotel, in 1956. Early takes from the recording session show the song being performed at a much slower, more bluesy tempo, revealing its origins as a true ballad. Was the one of the hidden gems of Elvis's early catalog. It's a fantastic piece of mid-tempo rock and roll with a doo-wop feel. The song features one of Elvis's most impressive early vocal performances, showcasing his incredible range as he effortlessly switches from a low growl to a high soaring falsetto. The Jordanaires provide their signature smooth background vocals, and Scotty Moore plays a classic, tasteful guitar solo. It's a perfectly constructed pop record. For decades, this was the only version of the song anyone knew. But when the session tapes from January 11th, 1956 were unearthed, they told a different story. The early takes of I Was the One sound almost nothing like the finished record. The band is playing the song at a crawl. It's a slow, mournful, bluesy ballad. On these early takes, Elvis sings the song with a deep, soulful ache. He sounds like a classic blues shouter. Bill Black's bass is slow and menacing. DJ Fontana is just tapping out a simple, almost funereal beat on the drums. It's a dark, atmospheric performance. It's clear that this was the original concept for the song. They were trying to create another moody, intense track to pair with the A-side, Heartbreak Hotel. But something wasn't quite working. The performance is powerful, but it's also a bit ponderous. It drags. After a couple of takes fall apart, you can hear them discussing what to do. Someone, likely Elvis or producer Steve Scholes, suggests they try speeding it up. The difference is staggering. On the very next take, they kick up the tempo. The song is instantly transformed. It's no longer a slow burn blues number. It's a bright, energetic pop song. Elvis's vocal changes completely. He's no longer mournful. He's playful and confident. The band locks into the new groove immediately. This is the take that would become the master. The session for I Was the One is a fascinating look at the creative process in action. It shows how a song can find its true identity in the studio. The initial ballad concept was a good idea, but it wasn't the right idea for this particular song. The alternate slow tempo takes are a historical curiosity. They are a what-if scenario. They show us a version of Elvis that could have been a more straight-ahead blues singer. But the final upbeat version shows us the Elvis that was a brilliant pop innovator who could take a song and, with a simple change of tempo, turn it into something magical. Number 3, did Elvis swear on a record? During a 1956 recording session, Elvis and his band recorded multiple takes of Hound Dog. One of these, Take 18, is a wild, chaotic performance where Elvis gets the lyrics wrong, laughs, and appears to yell a mild expletive in frustration. This take is famously known as the Lawhing version. Hound Dog is one of the cornerstones of rock and roll. Elvis's version, a radical reinvention of the Big Mama Thornton blues original, is a cultural landmark. The master take, recorded on July 2nd, 1956, is a perfect performance, aggressive, sneering, and impossibly exciting. It was the result of a long and frustrating day in the studio. Elvis was a perfectionist and insisted on doing take after take until he was satisfied. They recorded 31 takes of Hound Dog that day. Most of these alternate takes are just slight variations on the master. But one of them is completely different. Take 18 is a train wreck, and it is glorious. The band starts the song at a frantic, almost unplayable tempo. They are careening through the song, barely holding on. Elvis is singing with a wild, reckless abandon. Then it all falls apart. He messes up the lyrics, singing a line from the wrong verse. He realizes his mistake and starts laughing. He tries to get back on track, but he can't. The whole performance dissolves into chaos. The band is still playing, but Elvis is just laughing and ad-libbing. At one point, in a moment of audible frustration, he seems to yell what sounds like, "Oh shit." It's a shocking human moment. This wasn't the polished professional idol. This was a 21-year-old kid in a studio getting frustrated and messing around. This Lawing version was never intended for release, of course. It was a mistake, a moment of studio foolishness. But it was preserved on the session tapes. For years, it circulated among collectors on bootleg records. It was a legendary piece of forbidden Elvis lore. It was finally given an official release on the 1992 box set, The King of Rock and Roll, The Complete 50s Masters. Listening to it is a joyful experience. It's the sound of the pressure valve being released. After hours of trying to get the perfect take, they just let loose. It's also incredibly revealing. It shows the playful, irreverent side of the young Elvis. He wasn't a god, he was a human being who could make mistakes and laugh at himself. The perfect master take of Hound Dog changed the world. The imperfect, chaotic Take 18 gives us a glimpse of the man who made it. It's a reminder that great art is often born from chaos, and that even legends swear sometimes. Number 2. Did the Jordanaires save Don't Be Cruel? Don't Be Cruel was recorded on the same day as Hound Dog, July 2nd, 1956. An early take of the song, before the backing vocals by the Jordanaires were perfected, sounds remarkably empty and lacks the signature charm of the final version. Don't Be Cruel is the flip side of Hound Dog, both literally and figuratively. Where Hound Dog is aggressive and confrontational, Don't Be Cruel is a smooth, charming pop masterpiece. And it's one of Elvis's most beloved songs. A huge part of its appeal is the call and response between Elvis's lead vocal and the cool, rhythmic backing vocals of the Jordanaires. They're bop, 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 and are as iconic as Elvis's own performance. It's hard to imagine the song without them. But the session tapes show us that the song wasn't born that way. On the early takes of Don't Be Cruel, the Jordanaires are either absent or their parts have not yet been worked out. The result is a song that sounds strangely naked. On these alternate takes, you have Elvis's lead vocal, the band's solid rhythm, but it's missing its soul. It's like a beautiful painting that hasn't been colored in yet. You can hear them working out the arrangement in the studio. Elvis is singing the background parts himself, showing the Jordanaires what he wants. He knew the song needed something more. It needed that extra layer of texture, that cool, sophisticated counterpoint to his raw vocal. Then they nail it. The Jordanaires come in with their perfectly arranged, impossibly smooth harmonies. Suddenly, the song comes to life. The empty spaces are filled. The rhythm has a new bounce. Elvis's vocal now has something to play against. The final version is a perfect marriage of a raw rock and roll singer and a sophisticated vocal group. It was a combination that would define much of his classic 1950s sound. Listening to the alternate takes of Don't Be Cruel without the perfected backing vocals is a lesson in the art of record production. It shows that a great record is more than just a great song and a great singer. It's about the arrangement. It's about the small details that turn a good performance into an iconic one. The Jordanaires didn't just sing backup on Don't Be Cruel, they were an essential part of the song's DNA. The raw takes show us the skeleton. The final version is the living, breathing body. Number 1. What if an American trilogy was just a rehearsal? On American Trilogy was a medley of 3 19th century songs that became a show-stopping centerpiece of Elvis's concerts. The version from Aloha from Hawaii is considered the definitive performance. However, a rehearsal version, recorded a few days before the special, shows a more intimate and arguably more powerful interpretation of the song. An American Trilogy, arranged by country singer Mickey Newberry, was the perfect song for the patriotic spectacle of the Aloha from Hawaii special. It's a medley of Dixie, the battle hymn of the Republic, and the spiritual All My Trials. In Elvis's hands, it became a grand, sweeping statement about American history and unity. The performance of the song in the Aloha special is breathtaking. Dressed in his white American Eagle jumpsuit, backed by a huge orchestra and choir, Elvis delivers a performance of monumental power. It starts softly with the flute intro to Dixie, builds to a powerful marching rhythm, and then explodes into a thunderous, gospel-infused finale with the battle hymn of the Republic. It's pure, uncut Las Vegas spectacle, and it is magnificent. This is the version that everyone knows. But a few days before the concert, during the rehearsals, Elvis recorded another version. It was a run-through, a chance for him and the band to get the arrangement right. There was no audience, no jumpsuit, no satellite broadcast. It was just a group of musicians in a room. And they recorded a version of An American Trilogy that is, in its own way, even more powerful than the famous concert performance. On the rehearsal take, the arrangement is the same, but the feel is completely different. The performance is more intimate, more personal. Without the pressure of the live show, Elvis's vocal is more nuanced and controlled. He's not singing to a billion people, he's singing the song to himself. The difference is most apparent in the quiet moments. The opening section with Dixie is more mournful, more reflective. The middle section, All My Trials, is sung with a deep, soulful sadness that is almost unbearably moving. You can hear the gospel roots in his voice more clearly than on the concert version. And then there's the climax. On the Aloha version, the finale is a huge, glorious noise, a wave of sound designed to overwhelm the senses. On the rehearsal version, the power is more focused. It comes from the intensity of Elvis's vocal, not from the volume of the orchestra. It's less of a spectacle and more of a personal statement of faith. The rehearsal take of An American Trilogy is the final and most compelling example of the power of these lost and alternate versions. The official Aloha performance is a document of a historic event. It's Elvis the icon. The rehearsal is a document of a private artistic moment. It's Elvis the singer. It shows us that sometimes the most powerful performances happen when no one is watching. It's a quiet, profound final note in the secret history of the king.